There's one man who's probably watching events in Iran very closely, even though he's thousands of kilometers away. North Korea's leader, Kim Jong Un. For him, what's been happening to leaders like Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela isn't just a news story or a potential breach of international law. It's a warning. And while there are obvious parallels between Iran and North Korea, they're both isolated and heavily sanctioned by the West, there is one crucial difference. Pyongyang has nuclear weapons. But is that enough of an insurance policy for Kim Jong Un? That's exactly what we're going to be unpacking today. Spoiler alert, all of this is not really making the world a safer place.
Well, North Korea watchers should never make bets, but if I do have to bet, yes, I agree that denuclearization is something of an older era.
That's Jeongmin Kim. She's the director of the Korea Risk Group and an absolute expert when it comes to all things North Korea. And she says that in light of US actions in Iran, North Korea is trying to keep a low profile right now.
So I think there are several reasons that North Korea might be very careful on how to approach this. First of all, uh, although it's a different region and different context, there are a lot of similarities that we see between Iran's situation and North Korea's situation. North Korea's nuclear arsenal is way more developed, allegedly, according to North Koreans, but still, what happened in Iran is that during what they thought was a negotiation with the Trump administration, the strike happened. So, from North Korea's perspective, something of a scenario that it does not really want to see happen to themselves.
Before we dig deeper, let's take a step back here and look at North Korea's nuclear program and how the US has been dealing with it in the past.
U.S. maintained the what it calls strategic patience during the Obama administration, and then the Trump administration tried to say something, try to change something, which failed. And then during Biden administration, it was really deprioritized. So ironically, although the North Korea portfolio has been going down the portfolio prioritization from the US perspective and also South Korean perspective as well, the arsenal has been strengthened a lot, almost exponentially, because they now have solid fuel, liquid fuel, ICBMs, IRBMs that can attack Japan. There are tactical nuclear weapons and also the SRBMs that are capable, allegedly capable of holding those tactical nuclear weapons and firing them towards South Korea and the U.S. bases in Seoul as well. And they claim that they have a full capacity to strike the U.S. mainland as well.
Donald Trump has tried to talk the leader he once called Little Rocket Man out of his nuclear program, to no avail. Should the US president now decide to use more robust tactics, North Korea would certainly look to its two most powerful allies for help, Russia and China. But events of the recent past might not fill Kim with confidence.
Well, that's yet another reason for North Korea to believe that nuclear weapons is something it should not give up on. It's not just how Russia and China did not really come to support Iran, but also we saw something similar with Syria, Venezuela. It's something that, North Korean leaders see that, oh, although we have a mutual defense clause and treaty with Russia and China, they won't be able to come to our defenses completely when something like that happens. So they know that it's Putin and Xi's calculations that although they're best friends and they provide something that's needed shorter term, they cannot completely rely on these friends only.
Also, the fact that North Korea is possibly relying more heavily than ever on its nuclear program to ensure regime survival could have huge implications for its neighbor in the south. That's a problem for Seoul because they also don't know how reliable their best friends are at this point.
The only blood ally that South Korea has, which is the US, has become increasingly either unreliable and or uh, not traditional. Basically, it's very transactional. And in the most recent NDS, the National Defense Strategy, South Korea got a glorious shout out saying, oh, it's a model ally. And because they are so capable of defending themselves with their own soldiers, their own conscripted soldiers, and the assets, we will only go support you for critical and limited cases, which means nuclear deterrence. So, from South Korea's perspective, the risk and the threat increased, but also the pressure increased for its own defenses when it comes to conventional assets. So, for the Lee administration, which is quite new, this is a lot of things to juggle at the same time.
So, South Korea is on edge, North Korea is on edge, but how likely is it really that the US will attempt to unseat Kim Jong Un with military means?
For Iran, it's not that the US did the first strike. It was Israel. And the US, being the ally, supported, intervened, right? So that's the logic from Trump administration's perspective. It also justifies the domestic logic in the US because it wasn't a first strike, although some national interests were involved. With the North Korea situation, could it face a similar strike? Not completely, no, but if the same logic goes, someone else has to strike North Korea first, and then US comes to sort of join the strike. And in that case, it would be South Korea, right? But there's no way that South Korea, at least the current government, will do a first strike against North Korea unless there is a reliable and imminent sign of a mass attack from the North Korean side to the South Korean side, which will immediately trigger something called a kill chain from South Korea to preemptively strike the origin of the potential and imminent, reliably trusted potential attack from North Korea, which I don't think is anywhere imminent, considering North Korea does not want to fight two war fronts while their soldiers are already in Kursk.
In any case, Kim Jong Un will try to play his cards wisely going forward. And here is what experts are going to be watching out for.
One, we will have to monitor what happens to the bilateral relations between North Korea and Iran. Another thing would be a proxy, not just Iran, would be North Korea's decisions with the Ukraine war. The reason why I think Russia or China weren't mentioned at all during the January Party Congress was because I think it was waiting for Mr. Trump to make the decision or a treaty or whatever it might be with Ukraine and Russia. Um, North Korea right now has a mutual defense treaty with Russia, which is very wide ranging. It includes technical aspect cooperation and military and economy, and it has mutual defense clauses. If something like a actual end to the Ukraine war happens within the next 12-month period, and then North Korea decides not to really implement the treaty with Russia to the extent that it is doing right now, it means that its calculation changed when it comes to its balancing between Putin and Trump, really. But if it continues the current level of support and cooperation and rhetorical, support for Russians' causes, then it probably means that Kim Jong Un made a decision that it really does not want to leave any door open for Mr. Trump because it's too risky.
Many questions remain unanswered, but one thing is clear. A nuclear deterrent framed as essential for regime survival is a dangerous message to the world, and one we will continue to follow closely here at DW News. Thank you so much for your company. I'm Nicole Fröhlich. Until next time.